Ariel Helwani in Toronto for UFC 140 alongside UFC President Dana White. And Dana, we just talked to you a couple hours ago, but a lot has changed in the world of the UFC since then. Miguel Torres, a UFC bantamweight, was just released due to a tweet that you deemed offensive about rape. Why?
Yeah, it wasn't that I thought this was offensive. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous and stupid. And yeah, I'm sure offensive to many people, but there's been cases, here where things have happened that, some people have been offended by some of the things that the fighters have said. We have the Forrest Griffin incident. We've got the Rashad Evans incident, and now the Miguel Torres incident. Now, the way that I handle these things with guys is, we're all going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And a lot of the way that the public looks at these things is when a guy makes a mistake, you put him up on this pedestal, he makes a mistake, and then you want to burn him down. They burn him down, they beat him down. It's not how I operate. It's not the way that I do it. And we don't come out at the UFC with these canned statements that are written by our lawyers. We handle everything on a case-by-case basis. And with the idea that people are going to make mistakes, and it's how you handle yourself after you make that mistake. Well, the thing that happened with Forrest Griffin, just to walk everybody through the history of this so we can really understand what's going on. Forrest Griffin sent a tweet that said, rape is the new missionary. Okay? So when I call these guys and I'm like, can't wait to hear this one. Let's see how he makes sense of this. When I call him, he says he woke up in the morning, turned on the television, and the Sandusky thing was happening, right? Switched the channel. Literally the next news channel was talking about a woman who was raped in Las Vegas in one of the hotel rooms. Changed the channel, and the third channel he went to was a completely different rape. So his thing was, you never used to see this stuff or hear about it or on TV, and now it's so, every channel they're talking about rape. It's the new missionary. Now, what Forrest did was Forrest chose the wrong forum to do it on Twitter, where there's only so many characters. You can't explain yourself and it can be taken out of context, right? And how Forrest handled that after, first of all, when I called him, I had no idea how he could make sense out of this, but he did. I understood what he was saying, and that's my assessment of the Forrest Griffin thing. And then Forrest, literally, oddly enough, that night, there was a thing going on in town. Forrest went to the rape crisis. The lady who runs the Rape Crisis Center explained himself, and did a lot of cool stuff. And Forrest Griffin is that kind of a guy. In no way, shape, or form was he joking or being lighthearted about rape or anything like that. Then this thing that happens with, yesterday in Chicago with Rashad Evans, again, another intelligent guy. Him and Davis get into this heated back and forth. Davis went to Penn State. Rashad wrestled for Michigan. And Rashad wanted to stick it to him and Penn State. So he said the Sandusky thing. Obviously a dumb thing to say in the heat of the moment, but he said, listen, this is why I said it. I went after him. Okay. I can make sense of that. Miguel Torres, I'm sitting in this very room this morning. This room that we're in right now, being interviewed by Landsberg. Those of you that don't know him, he's a big, TV personality up here who does interviews with athletes and a lot of sports figures. So we're up here, and he reads me Miguel Torres's tweet, okay, which is, try to quote it here, basically, rape vans. If they were called surprise vans, more women would get into them because everybody loves a surprise. When he read that to me here this morning, I was blown away. It's one of the first times in an interview that I didn't know what to say, and I was just blown away. So as soon as I was done with that interview, I got ready, had to head over to the press conference. So I've got people working on, is that what was said, and that, et cetera, et cetera. After the press conference, I find out that was the case. He did say that, and he was joking. It was just a joke. And that's not a funny joke to me. That's not it's just not something you tweet or if that's your sense of humor, keep it at home around you and your buddies and keep it to yourself. It's not something that you put out on Twitter. And there's no explanation for it. I can't make any sense of it. And just enough is enough. I mean, if this doesn't, at least when you're getting ready to Twitter or you're getting ready to say something, think about what you're going to say. Think about what you're going to tweet and use a little common sense.
Prior to talking to Forrest Griffin, you just said there was no way you could have even fathomed what kind of an explanation he would have. But then he did sort of sell you on why he wrote that. Right. Did you talk to Miguel? Did you give him a chance to at least explain why he wrote that?
I didn't, but somebody else in my company did. And what came back is it was a joke. It was just a joke.
That was it?
That's it.
So then someone reported this back to you and you made the decision then to let him go?
Correct.
Has Miguel Torres in the past had any other kind of offense? So this was one strike, you're out.
He's never done anything. He's a good guy. He's not a bad guy in any way, shape, or form. He's been a great fighter, a great champion, throughout his entire career. But his sense of humor and mine are a lot different, apparently.
What happens if Forrest Griffin and Rashad Evans didn't say and write what they did the last couple of weeks? Would Miguel still have been fired? If this was the first sort of rape-related comment coming from a UFC fighter, would he have still been fired today? I
would have to say yes. First of all, just so you know, and you might know this and other people might, or you might not, or you might think what you think. I don't give a shit what people think. I really don't. If you haven't figured that out in the last 10 years, then you're pretty thick-headed. The bottom line is nobody is going to persuade me and nobody is going to pressure me into attacking my own guys and going after my guys because I feel like it's what should be done. I'm going to handle this thing the way that I want to. That's why I was telling you earlier when I read some of these things that these reporters write, it just cracks me up. And it's like when they start trying to break down our business and what's going to work and what's not going to work. I've been hearing their bull for the last 10 years. We've done a pretty good job of figuring out what's going to work and what's not going to work. But I'm not going to be pressured by the media, by the fans, or anybody else to go in and attack my guys when they make a mistake. I'm not going to come out with these canned written statements from our lawyers. We're going to handle this thing honestly and real, just like everybody would in real life. And what Miguel Torres wrote is unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
When did he write this?
I don't know. I guess it was within the last 2 days.
I looked at his Twitter timeline. I didn't see this. I saw something where he talked about a windowless van, but not a rape van. Did he delete it and then change it?
Yes. He tweeted it, then he went in and deleted it and rewrote something else.
I'm not sure when he wrote it, obviously, and when he deleted it, but it's surprising to me because obviously the Forrest Griffin situation drew a lot of buzz and a lot of people writing about it. Same with Rashad.
He said he didn't hear about it. He said he didn't know what happened to Forrest. I guess somebody called him right after he had tweeted and said, "Are you crazy? Didn't you hear what just happened to Forrest?" And he apparently said he didn't know, so went in and changed the tweet.
Here's what I was getting at. If the Forrest Griffin situation drew a lot of attention, a lot of people were writing about it, the Rashad Evans situation has been the thing that's been most talked about over the last 24 hours. This one, yeah, I covered the sport. I didn't see it. I may not have been on Twitter, but it seems to have flown under the radar. So I think you'll have people, and I want to know what your response to them would be, who will say, well, those were just as bad. Why is he getting fired?
Yeah, people are going to say that, but I disagree. Those weren't just as bad. Those guys are, like I said, they're all smart guys. They have, and the two guys that I talked to have explanations on why they did it. That makes sense to me. I can make sense of those. I cannot make sense of Miguel Torres' tweet. To just randomly go on Twitter because you saw something on TV or whatever your explanation is, that tweet makes no sense. And the fact that you would say it was a joke bothers me even more.
Do you have any interest in talking to him now?
No, I'm going to talk to his manager tonight. But yeah, it's not like now I hate Miguel Torres or anything like that. Miguel Torres, you're a fighter. Unless you work when you're not fighting for some rape crisis center or, that's one of your charities, you got no business talking about rape on Twitter. It's not funny. It's not entertaining. It's not something that people think is funny and want to read about.
Is this the first time since you've been running the UFC that someone has been fired due to something they've said or written?
Probably, yeah. I think so. I'm not positive, but yeah, I would have to say yes.
Is this part of a sort of, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, with Fox, with the mainstream coming, with the bigger spotlight?
Let me tell you what, whether we were on Fox or we weren't on Fox or whatever the deal was, this one's tough to swallow. This one's tough to, like I said, believe. Contrary to popular belief, I'm a very rational person when it comes to stuff like this. And, being, the type of person myself that will say what I want to say, when I want to say it. There's limits. There's limits to what you can say and what you can't say. And there's a time when you cross the line. And Miguel Torres definitely crossed the line. I'm the furthest thing on this planet from being a politically correct guy. And I think that every group that's out there, first of all, I think everybody's oversensitive. Everybody is. And most of these groups use people. If you say something wrong and you mess up and you have any kind of notoriety or popularity or whatever it may be, they use you. They attack you, they use you, and I absolutely will not let these groups come after my guys. I don't care what they think. We're all human beings. We're going to make mistakes sometimes and things are going to happen. And we're going to deal with this stuff in a real way, not some fantasy like Josh Gross. This guy lives in fantasy world. He's a goof. This guy likes attention. That's why he writes the types of stories he writes. And Loretta too. They both need attention. Have you seen either one of them? They need as much attention as they can get. I can't stand their style, and everything they do makes me ill. But there's going to be situations out there where other media groups come after us and other, activists or whatever you want to call them, and I will not be pressured by any of them to make examples of my guys or do things like that. I'll handle it the way that I see fit.
Do you think it's time to address all the fighters in Zuffa, Strikeforce, UFC, and talk to them about now with so much, technology, it's available to you, and you can.
I think it's one of the great things about us. I think one of the great things about this sport and the UFC, we're very accessible. And yes, we talk to the fans and we interact with the fans. I tell fans to shut up all the time on Twitter. If you come on and you say dumb stuff to me, I'm going to say dumb stuff right back to you. And I'm sure it's happened with the fighters too. And we live in a world, and let's be honest, let's not be phony here. We get in these situations where you have this guy and you idolize him and he's your hero, he's your fan. Sometimes when you meet this guy, you wish you didn't. Not everybody's nice, not everybody's this, not everybody's that. And not everything can be politically correct and all this other, it's some fantasy world that the media has built, that these guys that are put up on pedestals are supposed to be, these, these human beings who never make mistakes. It's impossible. It's impossible. And that's why I can't stand these holier than thou guys who come down and start, terrorizing all these guys, For instance, is the Tiger Woods thing. Men were all attacking Tiger Woods and all these people. Like all these men are like, oh, I'm perfect and I've never done anything wrong and I've never made any mistakes. I can't stand that stuff and I won't bow down to that.
So if I'm a UFC fighter watching this, or if I'm a fan watching this.
If you're a UFC fighter watching this.
What's the message?
The bottom line is all these guys are smart. Use your common sense. You know what to say and you know what and what not to say. If it has something to do with, rape or any of this crazy stuff, shut up. Don't be talking about it. You know what I mean? It's just, you have no place talking about it unless you're in, you're on a show and the topic is rape or something like that, which none of our fighters should be on that show anyway. It's just one of those things that you have to have common sense. If I was dealing with stupid people, if I had a bunch of dummies fighting for me, it'd be one thing. You can't fix stupid. Stupid or stupid. You can't fix it. I don't have stupid fighters. I have guys that are smart, intelligent. Most of them went to college. Most of them have families. Use your common sense. You know what to talk about and what not to talk about.
And not to keep going back to it, but just wondering why.
And if you think something's funny, keep it to yourself. You're not a comedian. You know what I mean? What you think is funny, other people might not. Unless you want to stop fighting and go become a comedian and open up for Rogan or something, We don't want to hear your jokes. We don't want to hear what you think is funny.
So just to be clear, why not give Miguel the benefit of the doubt? Why not just say, all right, you messed up once, you're suspended, you're fined. Now he's out of the UFC, and let's be honest, it's the big leagues, and it's going to be hard to make a living, especially as a bantamweight. And that shouldn't be what's coming into your line of thinking when you're thinking about these things. But why not just give him the benefit of the doubt, suspend him, fine him, punish him, but not fire him?
All of the guys that, first of all, Miguel Torres, again, is a smart guy. He owns his own business, in Chicago. We're dealing with a guy here who's very intelligent. It's just, you can't, I can't do it. You can't tweet something like that and not expect this to happen. It's impossible how you could expect to tweet something like this and have this not happen.
Final question. Does this mean that you will be monitoring what guys are tweeting, what guys are saying now, or is it, to steal a phrase, business as usual, you will be?
I've put it out there. Use common sense when you're not only tweeting, when you're talking or doing anything. Dude, this is a very lenient company. I'm very lenient, and I'm very open-minded, and I'm very realistic on what should be put on these guys as human beings, let alone athletes. And it's such an easy place to work, as far as your conduct and everything else. But when you cross the line, it's unacceptable.
Will Rashad be punished?
No.
All right, Dana, thank you for the time. We appreciate it very much.
All right. Thank you.